everybody, and welcome. This is SharePoint Power Hour. I'm Laura Rogers, and I have Joelle Drops in here. The Skype audio is just completely not working. Skype is not working today, so it's always something. So Joelle is in the chat, but she's not on audio like she usually is. We'll have to figure that out. All right, so Power Hour is, I'm not a developer, I'm not a programmer, I'm not going to do anything super crazy technical, but it is a show where we go over solutions that are more geared towards business users and power users, and just things that you can do in SharePoint, Office 365. I love process automation, forms and workflows. That's my favorite thing, so we do a lot of that. We do a lot of Power Apps, Flow, and just stuff like that, and just out of the box things like web parts and planner and just kind of the latest technology. So that's your synopsis if this is your first Power Hour. We also have our chat, which is, we use Slack for our chat. So if you're watching this in YouTube, then the description in YouTube has the link to join the Slack channel and come chat with us, because that's the fun of doing it live, is that we have questions and conversation, discussion going on the whole time, and we can, make it interactive. So, and you never know what's going to happen, because I usually just kind of demo something just off the cuff. And I did prep this one today. So today's demo is something I had to do, did for a customer yesterday. So I figured I would just show you all how I figured out how to do this. It took me, it seems like it's fairly simple. It took me a good bit of time to figure it out. The concept is, you have a list of tasks that have been assigned to people in SharePoint, or just could be any SharePoint list that's got this person field that people are assigned to stuff. And the idea is that once a day, you want it to send each person a list of their tasks, that if they have any tasks that are overdue or coming due in the next day, so it will just send them a list of their own tasks. So instead of having it barrage them with all these individual tasks, it's gonna just go and find all the individuals and send all the individuals a list of their tasks. So that's what I figured out how to do. So I'll show you the solution, and I'll show you, and I'll go ahead and run it. And then we'll walk through and build it out and explain what I did. So, and I'll probably should just write a blog post about this too. But all right, so here we go. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Does that sound like fun? Does that sound like a common requirement that you all have? First of all, here's my task list. This is, I didn't create this using the task list template in SharePoint. I just created it as a custom list. So it doesn't matter, what kind of list you have. I just created it as a custom list. I have this assigned to field, status, and due date. Those are the main ones I'm concerned with. You can, have whatever fields that your list has. And then I've got a bunch of tasks that are assigned to people, and they have statuses and due dates showing here. So the idea is that it would go through, and instead of sending for each individual task, sending an email about that task if it's overdue, to go find just the individuals and get a list of those people, and then for each person send a list of their tasks. So that's fun stuff. Okay, so I'll go ahead and run it and show you what it looks like. So daily task reminder, I'll go ahead and just I'm going to run it, and then we'll go through what all the steps are. So I'm going to go just run a test, and then I'll just show you what the output looks like. Okay, so I go to, so the goal is, so I go to my account is this Laura Rogers one. And so let's look at filtered by, I'm going to show you in the task list which tasks it should have sent me. So this one, and status is none of my tasks have been completed. Apparently I'm slacking. So all the ones that are, so 1, 2, 3, 4 that are actually due soon or overdue. So this one that's due 6/14 shouldn't show in my list, but 1, 2, 3, these other 4 should. So let's go look at my email, my current tasks. So look, I've got 4 tasks. Now this is kind of ugly, and we'll talk about how to, Chris. Thanks, Chris. Yeah. So we go, and I can go and click on one. And this was really hard to do this too. I can go and click on one, and it will actually take me to that task. So, all right. So that's the end result. So now we'll go talk about what the heck I had to do, and I'll just go ahead and build one. I'm going to build this from scratch. So I'm going to have it, I'm going to be looking at it on this other window and building it from scratch over here so that you can see kind of my trials and tribulations that I went through when I was building this. So I'm going to say create from blank, and then my trigger is on a schedule. So my trigger is going to be every 1 day, and you can get more specific about what time of day and stuff like that. I'm not going to worry about that. So once a day, what is going to happen? So I'm going to use a variable. I'm going to use a variable of an array. An array is a list of stuff. So I need to have a list of stuff. The way I decided to do this, now you could probably do this same solution many ways. I was kind of perusing the forums and stuff yesterday to kind of see how other people had done this and kind of different methods. And I found some that were crazy complicated. I was trying to make mine a little more simple. So this is just what I devised. So this isn't, I'm not saying that this is the absolute only way to accomplish what we're doing. Okay. And especially in Power Apps and Flow, there are so many different ways you can do pretty much anything. So I'm going to use an array variable, and I'm going to go through this. I'm going to get this SharePoint list of tasks, and I'm going to go through the list of tasks and get all the assigned to people's names and just have an array, which is a variable that's only going to have each name once. And so first, in order to use a variable, you have to initiate it. So you just have to do this action that says initialize. You have to initialize your variable. So I'm going to call it var assigned to, and make it an array. And I don't need to give it an initial value. All right. And then I'm going to go get those items in that SharePoint list. So I'm going to narrow it down to SharePoint. And I'm going to do get items, not get item, get items. And then I say where my list is. It's my little demo site and no, don't do that. My task list. It's called task list. Okay, so then you need to do, I try to keep an eye on, in the chat, you guys kind of chat about this and let me know what you think as I'm going, of course, as usual. So what I have to do is I want to filter this. I don't want to go get the entire list of tasks. That's inefficient. I want to only get the tasks that fall under these criteria. So I can do status. That's the name. God, stop it. That's the name of the status field. Now I need to know the exact name of the field. So I go to my list and I go and look at, I hover over the status and I can see field equals status. That's in the URL. So that's the actual system name of the field. And same with due date, field equals due date. So and this one's assigned to. So those are pretty simple, but I need to know, if I rename this and put a space in due date, it's still going to be just due date, one word. So I need to know that system name. So status, and I'm using OData query here. Not is not equal to completed. So not equal is NE, and then you got to put it in a single quote. Not equal. Status is not equal to completed. So if I run that, it'll just give me the ones that are not equal to completed. But then what I want to do is I want to say, I want to filter it by the due date too. So the goal here is I want to get things that are not only overdue, but things that are due in the next day or so, just to give people a heads up. So I'm going to say any due date that's today plus, so it's today plus 2 would be June 8th. So that date, June 8th, and anything less than that. So that will give me anything that's not completed, that's overdue, and anything that's due like tomorrow. Okay, so that's going to be my goal is, and due date, LT is less than in OData. And then I got to do a formula. So I still have to put the single quotes around it, but I'm going to do an expression in here. So my expression is, just grab that. I really don't have time to type all that out. This is a long workflow. So it is basically, I'm adding days, doing an add days function, and UTC now. So I'm adding days of basically now plus 2. So that's the formula. Add days now plus 2. So that's June 8th. So that's what I'm putting in here. Now plus 2. And then I got to do a close quote. All right. So status not completed. Due date is less than now plus 2. And that is my filter. So what does it give me when I run this? Let's see. I'll go ahead and save. I didn't name, let me name it something. List of tasks. There. Gave it a better name. Now let's just see what happens when I, oh, and it gives you a link too to get to the OData queries. So I'll copy that, and Flow just popped up and gave me that link. Joe says, what if my column is flow status? What you need to do, Joe, is you need to go to the list settings and you go click on that column and you look where it says field equals, see up here? And you've just got to copy whatever it says there. Just copy that thing and that will be what you type in your OData query, okay? So you don't have to try and figure out in percent. It's not going to be a %20. It's just going to be whatever this thing is, field equals, all right? Okay, so do not show this. Goodness, it keeps showing me these pop-ups. All right, so let's go ahead and test this. There we go. And I'll show you what it spits out. So it's just going to get those items. Now what it's going to give me is something kind of messy. It's going to give me all this messy list of like code. So that's fine. I am going to do something with that later. I'll show you. But so it's going to give me this list of stuff. All right, let's go a little further. So I got the items. Now what I want to do is, the first thing I'm going to do is get those individuals, those people, just the list of people. So the way I devised to do this is I'm going to do an each and apply to each. I'm going to call it for each assigned to. And for my output, it's going to go through this list of items it just got. And then I'm going to put a condition. So it's going to go iterate through each task. And no, not an action, a condition, sorry. Add a condition. Now, what I'm testing for is to see if I've added the thing to the variable or not. So as I find each unique person, I'm going to add it to this array variable. So I'm going to say the variable contains, and I'm going to pick that assigned to email because I know that assigned to email is unique. So I'm going to get their email. So if the array already does contain that assigned to email, it's not going to do anything. So if yes, I'm just not putting anything here. If it doesn't contain it yet, it's going to append. So I'll go variable. And you all are probably immediately trying to think of more efficient ways to do this. That's fine. Feel free. That would be awesome. Okay, so I'm going to append it, and I'm going to put the value of that assigned to email. All right, so now what it's going to give me is, let me kind of go back over here. Okay, so if the variable does contain that person's email address, nothing. If it doesn't contain it yet, it's going to add it. So as it gets to each person, you're gonna end up after this loop with just a list of each person assigned to person once. So that's what your output is. So I'm gonna collapse. So this is, oops, sorry about that. Let's see, look and see if, yeah, Valerie, flow has improved a lot. I agree. All right, so I'm going to give this a name. Let's see. And it helps to kind of name these as you go too. Is assign. You can't really name them later. You have to assign them like right when you create. You have to rename them right when you create them. In array yet. All right, if not, then it's gonna, okay. So I'll go ahead and collapse that thing. Okay, so then I end up with a list of people, basically. All right, so then after I do that, I'm gonna loop through the list of people. So I'm gonna do another apply to each, and I'm gonna call it for each assigned person. And then the thing that I want to loop through is this array variable, this list of people. Got it so far? You'll give me some feedback here. Okay. For each assigned person, that's where I want it to go ahead and send a list of the tasks, right? How hard can that be? So I'll kind of go through, instead of just listing out the exact stuff that I did to solve this, I'm gonna show you like the trials and tribulations that I went through. Because what you can do is you can do this HTML table. So like if I just go get this list of items, I have this action in here called, let me just type HTML, called create HTML table. So this will create an HTML table from whatever list of stuff. And it will even let you pick your columns. So I can say I want the title column to have the contents to be the title of the task, and then I want the due date column to be the due date of the task. So let me just show you what this looks like. So I can create an HTML table from just the items that I just got, and I can also create an HTML table of just, you know, that array, just to see that. So I'll just do that just for fun, just so we can see it in our output from my variable. Let's see if that, and no, yeah, there. Let's see what that does. This is really just testing, just to show you kind of what we're going through and how stuff works. Y'all with me? Hello? Okay, so it initializes the variable, it gets the items, and of course it failed. That's fine. Okay, so it gets the items and it creates the HTML table. So here's my output. So this is all the items, but I don't want all the items. I just want the items grouped by each person. So I want each person to get a list like this, and that is what makes this whole thing complicated. So let's see, in the second one it didn't. That's fine. See, the second one spits out a list of all the individuals. So that is my array, and that's what it gives me. So it just errored out because it's confused because I didn't really finish it, but that's fine. That's just for testing. Okay, so I'm gonna go delete this thing. I don't need that. I just wanted to show you the values that are being stored in there, and I don't need this HTML table either. I want an HTML table of each group of people. So what I could do is, for each assigned person, I could go do another query to SharePoint, and I could go get items again, and I could go do this same filter, and I can also do like the assigned to is equal, and then whoever that person is. Does that make sense? So I could, for each person, I could go get the items again, but that's inefficient, right? What do y'all think? Does that seem inefficient? if I go get the list of tasks and then I go for each person, then I go get the list of tasks again. It seems like that would be kind of silly because I already have the list of tasks. I already got them. So why don't I just do something with what I already have? So that's kind of my stubbornness in not wanting to go get the items again for every individual person. That's what made me kind of go down this rabbit hole of trying to make it more efficient and trying to just work with the data that I've already obtained. So I got the items, and then I have this this list. So here, let me go ahead and all right. So the next thing I want to do is I want to filter. So I've gotten the items. So that's one way of filtering it when you do the get items from SharePoint. You're filtering it immediately right when you're retrieving them. But once you already have the items in your flow, there's an action called filter array. Filter array. So I have an array, right? My array is, I have this array of the assigned to people, and I also have an array of my list of items. So any list of stuff. So my items is an array. So I'm going to go, I want to filter this array of stuff for this person. I want to filter it just to show theirs. So I'll do assigned to email is equal to, and then that's whatever the current item is for each assigned person. So assigned to email is equal to the current item. And then let's just see what it gives me. Do y'all find this to be something that you need to be able to do? You guys are very quiet. You with me so far? Come on now. Joelle, are you still there? Say hello in the chat. Okay, so the flow ran. Let's go see what it did. Okay, so it's filtering the array. But this is what the output is. It's all this gobbledygook. It's JSON. So it filters it correctly by, so this is the first person that it filters by. Okay. And then this is the assigned to for this one is Billy Bob. So Billy Bob, and the next item is assigned to, anyway, this is a mess, right? That's what your output is, though, when you filter the array. So then what I wanted to do next was, I just wanted to say, well, let me just create an HTML table out of this. And just like I showed you how you do the HTML table and you pick all the fields and then it spits out this nice pretty list of stuff, right? Well, so that's what I figured I would do with this just filtered list. So that's what I'll show you. That's what I tried. And that was not the most successful. So I want to say for my filtered list of stuff, create an HTML table, and let's do headers. And I don't want every single field in the entire task list. That would be a mess. So I do want to customize. The problem here is, look at this. So I don't have all the fields. So remember a minute ago when I created the HTML table from that nice neat list of the get items from SharePoint, and it actually listed all the fields? Well, I need the fields from this filtered list, and it doesn't give me all the column names. So I don't want to create an HTML table that's just a whole big long mess of stuff. So I'll show you what that looks like. So this is where I kind of got into it got ridiculously complicated once I started doing all this. My entire afternoon yesterday. Okay, for each assigned to, it's got 10 different assigned to people. And then here's my HTML table. See, it just spits out just all this just mess. And I don't want to send an email with something that looks like this. I want to send an email with just the columns that I want. So here's what I had to do. I had to, and I don't know what, I'm not I'm not a programmer. I don't know really what JSON is, but I figured I would try, let me delete this, and see what this parse JSON action is. So I typed, let's see, I typed compose, and I was looking through these data operations, and I was like, what's parse JSON? I don't know. I'll go try that out. So it gives me this content and schema. So my content would be the filtered list of stuff, this body of whatever gets spit out, from this up here, where assigned to is the current person. And then what the heck is a schema? So I took this, so let me save this. Oh yeah, I gotta put something in there. Hold on. I'll just delete that for a second so I can save it. So I can show you where I got this schema, which I don't even know what a schema is. So let's go back to my last time it ran. And it filters in and it gives me this stuff. So let me just copy this thing. Copy. And then I put it in Notepad, basically. So I put it in Notepad, and what it has is just all this stuff. What I discovered in a couple of times that the workflow errored out is that what you really want to do is get rid of any fields that you don't really need in that you don't need to do anything with when you're creating your HTML table. So because I got an error on, like, I had a description field, and it got confused because one of the descriptions was empty, and it had like the assigned to had job title in here and department and stuff like that. Not everybody in the organization had a job title and department filled in. So I would get these weird workflow errors over just kind of obscure little fields in here that came from the JSON that I didn't really need anyway. So anyway, let me grab all this. So I've got, it starts with this bracket, and I just got one item. So I noticed that it spat out a list of items. So I'll show you. And this is the part where it gets pretty confusing because I had no idea what I was doing. Like I said, it took me all afternoon. So this is what I was looking at, and it might have one, it might have more items in here. So I just narrowed it down to one item, and I noticed that this OData E tag was like the first field that it showed in here. So I just got everything between these brackets to give me just a single item in the list. Anyway, so then I take this whole thing and I copy it. Y'all nice and confused yet? Yeah. Okay, cool. So I'm going to parse the JSON. Did I mention that I'm not a developer? Fun. Okay, so the content is the stuff that gets filtered. And then for schema, I just clicked, I don't even know what this means. Again, I was just testing stuff. Use sample payload to generate schema. So I just pasted that stuff that I had just copied from the output. So that's basically got all the fields from my list and fields about, each of the people and stuff like that. So then that seemed to work. So then I parsed the JSON. So then again, the ultimate goal here is to get an HTML table. So, and remember, the reason I couldn't do an HTML table with just this filtered array is that it didn't give me the names of the columns. So that's the purpose of parsing out the JSON. So I'm going to create an HTML table. Now when I pick this parsed JSON stuff, I'll do include headers, yes, columns, custom. Here's what happens. Let's see, look at the title of my task. And then look at this. So for my parsed JSON, it gives me all these columns. So that's what I needed. That's what I didn't have when I just did the filter array. So I mean, maybe there's some developer, like certain syntax that I'm missing that I don't know about, where you wouldn't have to do the parse JSON, but this is what visually gave me the list of columns. So here's the title of my task. And then I've got due date. Scroll up to the due date. Oops, due date. And then I'll put the assigned person. Now, this one's interesting because I've got assigned to and assigned to claims. But if you look at this, this is going to be too messy because I don't want it to give me, if I just picked assigned to, it would give me this whole, let's see, where is it? Yeah, this whole thing. So it spit out just this big, ugly blob of text. So I don't want that. I just want the display name, or I just want the email. So the way the JSON's getting parsed is it's pulling each of these individual things as an individual column over here. Because notice that I have multiple display names and multiple emails. So like if I go click display, I don't even know what display name this is. If it's the author, which is created by, or editor, which is modified by, or if it's the assigned to, because I have 3 people fields. So I just click on it and then I can hover over it and I can see, oh, that's the editor display name. That's not the one I want. I go to the next one. That's the assigned to display name. Okay, good. So that's the one I want. And this third one is probably the author display name. Okay, so then it's going to give me, and then that's where I could pick whatever other fields that I need from my task list that I want to show in that email that gets spit out to people. All right, so let's go see what that looks like. Test. And my flow is running. So it's got 5 different people for each assigned to. It's got 5 different people that it's going through. And so this one is Billy Bob. So it's title, due, and assigned. And this is what the HTML table it looks like that it spits out. And then I can go to the next assigned person. This is a little buggy because when I click next right here, it shows it to me. Yeah, it briefly shows it to me and then like bounces back to the first one. So see, like I can see this is the list for Chris Rogers, and then it just randomly bounces back to the first item. So that's like a bug in Flow, that it lets you scroll from person to person from when it loops through things, but then when you try and look at all the details, it just randomly bounces back to number 1, no matter what you do. So go to number 4, there's Joelle, and then see, now it bounced back to Billy Bob. So it's not you. I think that's a bug in Flow. So, but the thing is, this is what it gives me. So I could put this in an email, but that's not what I want. I want it to be a little, I want to change maybe the way it looks, or I want to give them a link. I want to give them a link to the actual item so they can go click on the task. That makes sense, right? So here's one way that I can do it. I can just type link and have a column that has the link like that. But that was not satisfactory to me. That did not give me what I want. I'll show you what it looks like. Y'all enjoying my trials and tribulations? This is only the tip of the iceberg as to what I went through trying to figure this out. It's ridiculous. All right, for each assigned person. So then it gives me, see this is ugly. I don't want just a giant blob of a hyperlink. I want it to be a clickable link. So here's what I had to do. I had to do a formula that will basically find and replace something and do a replace function to go kind of create this hyperlink. Let me show you how I did that. So instead of link, I'm just going to put the ID. Now the reason I'm using the ID, and I'll just show you, and this is the ID of the item, is that in SharePoint, and this is just SharePoint knowledge, is that when you open up an item in SharePoint, so when you're looking at the list of all the items, that's allitems.aspx. But when you're looking at a specific item, that's going to be like, let's see, edit form. It's editform.aspx question mark ID equals. And that gives you that specific item. So this is the link that I want to give them for each task, just to give them this editform.aspx ID equals something. All right, so what I decided to do, and the way I decided to do this, was I put the ID here because that's going to be different for each of these items. And then I just put, I'm going to use a couple of characters that I know that don't exist anywhere else in this list or in any of these fields or anywhere in this HTML. And I'm going to put a couple of these odd characters in here just so I can find and replace them. Okay, so following me? I know this is really weird. So let me copy this. Oops. Copy. Okay, so I need to find this right here, this caret, and replace it with, let me go back to that individual. Find the caret and replace it with this whole string because I want it to be up to like right before the ID. So I'm going to put this in here so it's clickable, so it's a URL, clickable link in HTML. And then after the number, I'm going to go find the asterisk and replace it with just basically closing out the HTML link. I think y'all are probably asleep by now, but okay, so that's what I have to do, is to devise, basically construct this link in here. So instead of just taking this HTML table and putting that in the email, I'm going to do another action, and I'm going to do compose. And why this is so hard, I don't know, but maybe they'll, you know, Flow just keeps improving over time. So stuff like this that's so painful now is becoming less and less painful because they build more stuff into the product, right? So I'm going to say, I'm going to take compose, and this has to be a formula. So I'm going to use an expression. So I'm going to do a find and replace. So I'm going to replace any caret that I find with, let me go ahead and copy this. Copy. I'll show you what it looks like. So this thing. So in the body of this table that I create, it's going to go find this caret and replace it with this string. Make sense? I should probably write all this down in a blog post, huh? And then, so that's the first thing that I'm going to do. And then I have to put a replace inside of my replace. So then I have to do, it's like a double replace. So I'm going to replace that caret with this thing. And then I'm going to replace and the asterisk with this click and then closing out the HTML code, the link code. So I'm going to take this whole thing. So it's replace what? This is the body, basically the table, and replace this caret with this text, and then another replace that's going to look at this as the string that's looking at, that it's going to look at this output, and then replace the asterisk with this thing so that it creates a clickable hyperlink. Yee. Okay. So I'm going to go put that in my formula. Now yours is going to be whatever your, you know, your own link to your list is. So don't use Wonderlara. Okay, so then I'm going to compose that and replace. Can't, Joe says you can't just put that URL string right inside the table. No, unfortunately. Let me show you what happened when I tried to do that. I tried to do ahref, but it doesn't let you type spaces in here. So you can't type spaces. So you can't put it in there. Yeah. So, yeah. So that's what I had to do. So then I also saw people that, kind of the way I found this replace thing was I saw that people wanted to format their table in a certain way too. So they would do stuff like give the table a border, because it comes out pretty ugly. So see, it comes out like really ugly like this, even with the clickable link in it. So you would have to go find and do find and replace to give the table a border, to give like the cells borders and stuff like that. Also, so you'd have to do like a replace inside of replace. So let's go ahead and just save that and run it. And oh, we got to put the email too. So do the email, send email to, and that's going to be the person for each assigned person. That's going to be that current item. Because remember, in the array, all I'm storing is their email address. And then the subject is whatever. These are your tasks. And then the body. Now I have to remember to do is HTML. Yes, that's important because I'm going to be putting that HTML table in here. Here is your list. Put a carriage return and then put the compose. I better name that compose thing something better. Hold on, let me give it compose final HTML table, and then put that in here. And test. I love how fast these tests run and flow. Makes me happy. Okay. So it ran, it sent the, let's go look at the email. Let's see. Maybe it didn't. Oh yeah, here it is. These are your current tasks. And here they all are, and those all have the clickable item IDs in them. So what I can do is, like we were talking about, you can do further things to, now I don't know how I would compose it, like without even using the compose HTML table, the create HTML table. I don't know if there's a way to just create the HTML table from scratch without having to do this replace thing. It seems like there would be, but I couldn't figure that out. So there might be a much more complicated, like developer-y way to do that. But what I can do in this replace is I can add another replace. And then what do I want to replace? Go to the end here. And then replace table. Oops, got to put it in quotes. Like that. Replace table with table border equals 1. Oh, gotta put that in quotes too. Single quotes. Table border equals 1. And then close my replace. And see what that looks like. Oh, Joe says, yes, you can. Yes, you can. What, Joe? You can create the HTML table from scratch. Please tell me yes, because that would be awesome. Because this whole replace thing is a bunch of... Valerie says, I think what you're doing is way beyond no code and very close to being developer-y. Yeah, and I didn't want it to be. I just had a simple outcome that I wanted to have a list of people. Joe says by creating an email in HTML with a table and then copy the HTML code and pasting it into the send an email action body. I don't know. You'd have to prove that to me. I don't know if that's possible. Let's go see what this next email looks like. Look at that. It put a border around everything in my table. So that's what that's how what that kind of border equals 1 did in my table. So that's, yeah, it's okay. Look, and then you'd probably want to add some padding, right? And then you'd have to get into that. So let me show you the alternative. So I'll go back and edit. So this is the thing that I didn't want to do, which is why I got into this whole mess, which I didn't want to go get the items again. But let's go ahead and just get the items again, just to play devil's advocate and see how that works out. Okay, so I'm going to go delete all this stuff, all this mess that I did. And we'll just try another way, okay? A neater way, but probably a simpler way, but probably more inefficient way. So we're going to go through each person that I have in this array and go get yeah, you're right, Ariel. Okay. Get items. I've got 13 minutes. I can go and figure something else out, right? There's my site. There's my task list. And here's the, okay, so I'm going to call this get items for person. So that's for that one person that it's looping through. So I need to have this same query basically plus that person. So I wonder if it'll just let me copy that whole thing. Probably not. Yeah, no, it didn't. So last thing I'll just redo that formula. Copy. And then put a close quote. Okay, so then I got to do another and, right? And this is where I'm going to get to, where's that? Assign to claims. I think I'm going to use that field. Okay, assign to claims. And this has to be lowercase and, by the way, I learned that the hard way. And okay, so and assign to claims. How do you, let me get that syntax. Let me see if it lets me use this. No, again, I didn't try this yet. So this is the part of Power Hour where I just like make stuff up, right? And assign to claims equals, and that's going to be I:0 pound dot f pipe, and I'm just looking at the syntax right here because I'm just going to put the email in here, but I'm just like putting all of this stuff. Membership, and then you put the email address assigned to wait, not get items. And I got to put this thing for each assigned person. This is an email address. Current item is an email address. So it's going to be that. Close quote. Oh. No, yeah. No, that's it, I think. Or we'll just see. So I'm going to get items for person. And then create HTML table. From the get items for person. And see, then it's going to give me the ability to do these nice little headers. See, that's a lot easier. I'm just going to do title for now. And test. Let's see if the query even works, if my syntax was correct. I have no idea. Oh, it failed. Yeah, see? It didn't like that syntax. Expression, yeah, and due date less than that, and assigned to claims equals that. Is not valid. Okay, that's fine. I'll just try a different one. So what I want to see is, and I already have my output, like this is the output of what it does when it gets items. So I just have to figure out the correct syntax of assign to. Because the tricky part about it is that it's a people field. So it's got assign to, and then it's got like another level down, and it's got this stuff, right? So that's why, yeah. I'll just type assign to and just see if that works. Just assign to. Oops. What happened? Oh man, it deleted my. Let me get that formula again. Due date is less than this thing. And when I am not sure about a syntax, sometimes I'll just hard code it in there. So let me double check. The name of the column is, yeah, assign to with no space. And assign to equals, and I'll just try putting, just hard coding one in here just to see if that's the correct syntax of what it's looking for. Troubleshooting with Laura. Yay. That's what we could call Power Hour. Okay. And drum roll. Oh, it ran successfully. Let's see. It didn't spit out any data. So it did the query and basically came up with no results. So the table has no data in it. So that did not work. So for the assign to, it's not looking for just an email address. So you'd have to do like assign to / email or something, and that's where it's going to be way too pain in the butt. See, get items, and then the output here is this. So assign to is like all this stuff. Assign to : and it's like this whole thing in brackets. See, so it's like OData type claims blah blah blah. Kind of like in Power Apps when we have to do that big weird syntax when we're dealing with people fields. That's kind of what this is looking for. That's why I was trying to just use assign to claims, because that one's just one thing. It's more simple. But it didn't like it when I tried to put that in a query. Yeah. So, yeah. So again, this is one reason why I had to do it the long, complicated way I did, because of, first of all, because I didn't want to have to go get items again for each person. And second of all, assign to is way more complicated to query. There's at this point I'd probably be just like testing, you know, checking on the forums how to go like do a query for anything that's a people field in SharePoint. So yeah. And assign to equals that. Yeah, so it's not this. Assign to, I'm going to try the claims one more time. Why does it keep, it keeps jumping my cursor around everywhere. I hate it when it does that. Now I got to go paste my formula in there again. As soon as I start typing, it just randomly moves my cursor. That's fun. Less than that thing. And assign to claims equals, and I'm going to do that. There. Oh, you know what? Let me see. We'll just test that. We'll just see. That one's Billy. It might have worked a minute ago. I might have just not scrolled through all the items that it returned. Get items for person. Did they all fail? Yeah, it's not valid. It's not a valid query. Yep. Next failed. Yeah, they're all failed. Oh well. So yeah, so I did show you the whole way to build the whole thing, and I'll just go overview of that real quick. Let me see. Got the correct one over here. Okay, so overview. Every one day, I initialize a variable. I go get all the items in the SharePoint list that aren't complete, and due date is less than today plus 2. And then for each of those, I go say, look at this array variable assigned to, and see if it contains this assigned to email for this task. If it doesn't, then I append that email address to the array. If it does, then I don't do anything. So that way it only puts each email address in this array one time. So then I have this list of people. So then for each of these items in the array, the assigned to people, then it's going to go filter the list of items that it got, where assigned to email is equal to the current item that it's looping through. And then it's going to go parse the JSON and to get all those fields basically that I need. Then it's going to create an HTML table with title, due date, assigned to email, and this link that I devised. And then it's going to do a compose, so it's going to replace the caret with the beginning of the URL and replace the asterisk with the closing of the HTML. And then it's going to send an email to each of these people with their list of tasks. Ta-da! And there might be a more efficient way to do it, but if there is, and that's the whole thing that was in the back of my head the whole time I was doing this was this is so painful, there's got to be a better way. But you guys let me know if you figure out a better way, but that was fun, right? All right, so next week, I'm not sure what we're doing, figure it out the last minute like I always do. Feel free to go into the ideas channel in here. So go to, I'll type it, ideas to submit ideas. And then for each idea in here, sometimes I'll go I'll put a little star next to it. So like Christie's that I did a form that has different, I did that target audience thing last time. And then you can basically just go vote for other people's ideas. So when you see an idea, you go read through here and see ones that you think are good ideas. You can use that little thumbs up, stuff that Slack has to do that. Let me see what else. See, is there a way, did I flag any of these? I think I had starred some, pin to ideas. Another power hour using Power Apps and discussing variables is what Brad said. So I pinned it. Okay, so then we can go look at all the pinned ones. How do you do that? Hold on a second. I'm still sharing my screen. Hold on. So in ideas, I just pinned Brad's idea. So what I want to do is I want to see a list of the pinned items. Oh yeah, here we go. 8 pinned items. I always have to search and search to find that. So here are basically all the items that I found that would be good ones for you all to vote for. So if you go look in channel settings and you go to channel details, then you can look for, you can make it display all the pinned items for you. So then that's where you can, like Carolyn, I'm going to go ahead and unpin yours because we've done a few more about flow since you requested that. And then, so pinning them is going to be a good way for us to mark them as, things that you can vote for. All right. So you guys can pin them too. Teams update. That's kind of old. I'm going to get rid of that one. Teams has been updated a whole bunch since then. Yeah, so that's all. I'll go ahead and flip back over to here. All right, thanks. I'll try and remember to send out the newsletter or have time to send out the newsletter next time. Whenever you joined Power Hour in Slack, it automatically sent you an email letting you know the link to go to subscribe to the newsletter. But you can always just go to wonderlaura.com and click. It's got a little link that says stay in touch on the right. And it's also got under resources, the Power Hour schedule. So when I actually decide what topics, or Joelle and I decide what topics we're going to do, that's where we put them. And sometimes I email out the newsletter and sometimes I don't. It just depends. It's just kind of time consuming. So it depends on if I have time. All right. And for those of you who are Ultimate, who have the Ultimate subscription in our training site, iwmentor.com, we added a new thing in there. It's the Power Apps knowledge base, where it has just solutions and downloads of actual Power Apps with solutions built into them, and along with step-by-step instructions on how to build those solutions. So it's just got various and sundry things with galleries, forms, and just different fun little things that you can build. And we're constantly adding and adding to that and thinking of more. So thanks, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Bye.